Greetings in the name of the Lord. My name is Jose Hernandez, and I'm going to be your instructor for this course of Global Church History. And it's an honor and a privilege to be part of this course during this semester. You are going to be doing a lot of work prepared already by Dr. Patrick Eby, and in addition to that, I will be every week posting a video with my personal thoughts about the discussion of the week. In addition of that, of course, I will be checking your work, and I will be grading all of what you've been doing. I live in Madrid, Spain, and I serve as a missionary with the Free Methodist Church. Also, I am a missiologist and been teaching church history for Wesley Seminary at Indiana Wesleyan University for the last 5 years. And it's an honor and a privilege to be with you during these 8 weeks. Now, the question of this week is why we study church history. There is a lot of people that they take this course because they have no other option. They prefer to get involved in exegesis or Greek or Hebrew or any other task or course that will fulfill their desires to be connected more into the scripture. And I understand that. At the same time, I believe that without that historical connection, we cannot have a proper exegesis of the scripture. Because when we talk about the context, it involves a lot of this history. So, after being in church my whole life, it amazed me how little believers know about the history of the Christian church. It is one of those realities that we know along the way. But more sadly is to have ministers or church leaders that not just don't know anything about church history, but the worst part is that they have no interest at all in knowing more about our history. Something that is important in order to have a better church. Today, in the present, we are building the history. We're making history every single day. And we're going to look back in the future, or perhaps our children or the next generation will be looking back and they will see our actions. So church history really, really matters. About 2 days ago, I returned from the trip to Israel. I was taking a group of students from Greenville University in Greenville, Illinois, and as they were in this tour in the Holy Land, they were astonished to discover how little they knew about church history. Going to Israel and seeing the Church of Cana of Galilee, or the Church of Annunciation in Nazareth, or Shepherd Fields in Bethlehem, they found the sad reality of this battle that it is happening right now between Roman Catholics, Armenian, and Orthodox about the accuracy in the account of church history. So there is a Roman Catholic church site. There is an Orthodox church site. It is interesting that, for instance, if you want to go to the Church of the Annunciation, well, they have the Roman Catholic version and they have the Orthodox version. So half of the holy sites in Israel have this particular issue. And it brings to my mind, the question of how accurate we are doing this. So it is important that we be accurate in church history in order to be able to preserve it and pass on that to the next generation. Well, all of us serve in ministry as academic or perhaps as practitioners, and we all have an obligation of knowing the good, the bad, and the ugly about our history. One of the reasons we study church history is to exactly remember God's faithfulness. When we take a look into this great history of persecution, suffering, martyrdom, hunger, imprisonment, and in spite of the obscurity of many moments, uh, it is important to understand that God's faithfulness helped His church to survive and to move forward until this present day. We study church history because it is to get motivated, to persevere in our faith in a postmodern world as the one that we live with a fragmented church. It is very important to think that we are right now living perhaps in a turning point of the church. But in reality, as we think about that, the reality is that the history has been repeating itself in front of our eyes once again. Because when we take a look back into that history, we will discover that many of the issues, many of the things, many of the controversies that we are seeing today happened already 2,000 years ago, 1,500 years ago, 500 years ago. So we study church history in order to avoid the errors and horrors from the past. There's no doubt we have many chapters in the history of this church that were not proud at all. But we must need to revisit these chapters in order for us not to repeat those mistakes and rather to learn how to be better believers, how to be a better church, how to be what God desires for us to be. Our responsibility is not just to remember history for the sake of memory, because it is crucial we pass on to the next generation of believers along with the history some words of advice in order for them to be better believers and never again repeat any shameful chapter. Yes, we are imperfect. Yes, we have made errors in the past, but we're willing to learn from the past in order to have a better future. We study church history in order to have perspective. We cannot write the future of the history of the church without having knowledge of its past and present history. The study of the church will give us also theological balance in a world that pulls us into the extremes. Sadly, the little we know about church history is what comes from the Western Christian perspective. Because we have, for most of the part, as the main reference from most of church history professors today, it will present you church history from a Western point of view, from the Church of Rome point of view. And many of them do not have been able to create that balance between the Western Church and the Eastern Church. So most of the believers today, particularly in the evangelical world, do not have any idea about the history and tradition of the Eastern Church. And I think it is important that all of us, when we talk about church history, be able to connect Western Church and also the Eastern Church. So, the study of the history of the church should make us ponder not just about the fathers of the church and the churches from the West and the East, but also should make us think and seek more information also about the Hebraic roots of the church. For whatever reason, most Bible students, when we talk about church history, they just have a few chapters of the book of Acts and a little bit of Paul, and then we jump all the way into the fathers of the church, and we cut pretty much 300 years. So pretty much most church history students begin pretty much for the year 300 and forward. But in reality, we need to dedicate a little bit more time to study about the Hebraic roots of the church in order to have a more broad perspective about this history. So we should study church history because this history produces hope for a better future. It is in this history that we can see God that is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And because of that, we're going to be able to write a better church history in the future. The story of church history reminds us we are part of a big family. And like any family, we're going to have great times, but also we're going to have also moments of tension. We're going to have our arguments one to each other. We're going to have even splits like in any family happen because we're a family. We are not perfect. We are indeed an imperfect church serving a perfect God. Nonetheless, our family is diverse and global. This is God's mosaic over this planet. So through the study of the history of the church, we actually are able to see the grace of God that in spite our shortcomings, God always is faithful with us. We study church history in order to remember that this perfect God wants to use this imperfect body of believers from every nation and ethnic group in this planet to fulfill his great commission to the ends of the earth. So, I conclude in saying to you that for the next 8 weeks, you're going to be able to touch a little bit about this history. And it is my prayer that once you conclude this course, you could be able to spend perhaps a little bit more time to dig more about this wonderful history. And that you pray also in order that you, as also being one of the church history makers, could be a better witness. And you could be able to pass on to the next generation the great work that God have placed in your hands for his glory and honor. Thank you very much, and I will see you next week. Blessings.